Hello, buddies. Today I will disclose to you an incredibly gripping and suspenseful movie of 2021, which is based on real-life events, and it's called Eugene, along with thousands of people, accompanies the famous writer Hugo on his final journey. During the ceremony, the girl has a seizure, but she manages to stop herself in time. Having been late for dinner, Eugenie lies to her parents that she was at a friend's house, and only her brother Theophie quietly smiles, understanding that his sister is lying. To change the subject, the guy starts a conversation about the upcoming debates, and he asks his wife for permission to attend the event with his brother, but the father sharply refuses, reminding her that it is not appropriate for a lady to participate in such things. Prior to going to bed, the girl enters the bathroom, and she experiences another attack during which she engages in conversation with someone. But the wife again composes herself, observing her grandmother at the door, who is awaiting her granddaughter for the customary evening ritual. In the morning, Theo is getting ready for the debates and finds his sister in his carriage, whom their father strictly forbade to go. But the girl is not going to the meeting, but only asks her brother to drive her to the outskirts of the city, where she can calmly read a book and smoke, secretly from strict parents. The dissatisfied guy, though not thrilled with the idea and his participation, but he cannot refuse his beloved sister. Having purchased a fresh bun, the wife goes to a simple cafe where she sips a cigarette, reads poems, and glances at the guy sitting at the adjacent table. Noticing this stranger, he starts a conversation and borrows a book about spirits from the girl, leaving a note with his name on the first page and taking a promise from her to meet again to get the book back. In the evening, reading the book she was given, Eugenie shares her acquaintance with her brother, and he, laying his head on his sister's lap, listens as she reads. The next day, the family arrives at the neighboring estate where Theophie's bride lives. This union is very important to the father, and he remains extremely dissatisfied when Eugenie again, insulting a young person. Because of this, there is a conflict in the family. Christmas Eve is approaching. Eugenie and Theo are putting up the Christmas tree together, and the young people are climbing up to the attic to get the Christmas decorations. At that moment, the girl has another attack, and she confesses to Theo that she now sees many different spirits, and not a single man, as before. Eugenie confides in her brother and asks him not to be scared, because in the book that her boyfriend lent her in the cafe, it says that there are many people like her. Eugenie returns to her grandmother's bedroom to comb and help her get ready for bed. But at a certain moment, the girl abandons all her tasks and begins searching through the items in the closet. She discovers a pendant that her relative had misplaced 40 years earlier. The girl admits to her grandmother that she learned about him from her late grandfather. In the morning, the girl's worried mother will come and say that she and her father are going to the neighboring estate again, so the woman asks her daughter to behave properly and not say anything extra. Noticing tears in her mother's eyes, Eugenie thinks it's just concern for her behavior. Therefore, embracing her mother, the girl, without suspecting, is about to go on a visit. On the way, Jane notices a travel bag on her father's lap and comprehends that they are obviously not going to visit. Looking out the window, the girl doesn't recognize the road, but noticing mentally ill women in the garden, she understands everything. Unfortunately, it turns out it's already too late. The crew stops at the gates of the psychiatric hospital, where the father brought his wife after Theophie shared her secret with him. The medical team promptly grasped the girl's arms, disregarding her screams, and solely Theo was unable to maintain composure, leaning close to the carriage due to feeling nauseous. After some hesitation, the head of the family put his signature on the document, in which he indicated his consent to the compulsory treatment of his daughter. Experienced nurse Genevieve assesses the newcomer Ramones and promptly observes that any act of disobedience in this facility poses a risk of solitary confinement. The wife enters the shared bedroom and immediately goes into shock from where she ended up. Dozens of women, half of whom behave absolutely inadequately, are trying to do it at once. Touch the young patient, but Louise, a girl with visible mental problems, comes to the girl's aid, but it appears that the girl's problems are caused here by the local treatment and environment. Patient incessantly says something, telling about her engagement with the young Dr. Jules, and about the fact that they have a costume ball for the rich and officials in their clinic every year. During lunch, Louise introduces the newcomer to the locals, telling in detail about each patient. The first night is very difficult for Jane, and she hardly sleeps, and in the morning the girl watches as the senior nurse takes Louise somewhere, and from their conversation it becomes clear that this is a regular practice. Louise is brought into a large office where dozens of doctors have gathered, including the one and only Jules, who smiles at the patient in such a way that no one else notices. Dr. Charcot, the hospital's chief doctor, starts a hypnosis session. When the girl collapses, he calmly steps over her and bids farewell to everyone until the next procedure. The patient is moved to the medical unit, where she wakes up. and Dr. Jules comes to visit her, who drives out the medical staff and, taking advantage of the girl's naivety, informs her that in the upcoming costume ball, he will make a marriage proposal to her. After that, the doctor places one hand beneath the girl's dress, and using the other hand, he gratifies himself. Choosing a small free moment, Genevieve runs home to visit her elderly father and have lunch with him, telling him the latest news from the clinic. Upon returning to work, Genevieve stands up to go see the newcomer and speaks to the nurse, referring to her as a blonde on behalf of her sister who has passed away. The woman does not want to hear and believe what the mad woman says, ordering her to be silent. The doctor examines the patients and prescribes cold water therapy with ice cubes to the wife, which finally breaks the girl. Theo locates Genevieve and requests her assistance for his spouse, admitting that he profoundly regrets his actions. Man asks nurse to give girl a book, reflecting on it for a while. Employee talks about wife's transfer, Theophia's visit, but agrees to give book only on condition. What the girl will connect her with her deceased sister and help them talk. One night, Genevieve wakes up a patient and brings her to her office, where she plans to witness a ritual. Jenny cannot reach the blonde for a long time, but then the deceased contacts her and informs her that the nurse's father became ill at their home in the kitchen. Having left everything, the woman runs home and actually finds the man after the attack. When he asks the daughter where she learned about what happened, Genevieve decides to confess, but only receives criticism and accusation of madness from her father. After another session of hypnotherapy, Louise's legs and one half of her body refuse. Seeing this, Eugenie can no longer remain silent and expresses to the doctors everything she thinks about it, without holding back in her expressions and accusations. For this, the girl is recognized as dangerous and transferred to a solitary dark cell in a department headed by the strict Jean. The patient is passed through the window at the bottom of the door. Shutters open sporadically. Therapy solely aims at the patient, with no other objectives apparent. To finally break the will of the sick. Once, when Jean comes to mock her husband again, the girl tells the matron that she communicates with her deceased mother and knows all her secrets. In order to do this, the nurse applies force and releases the girl's throat only when she has absolutely no air left to breathe. Genevieve, meanwhile, remembers what happened and, unable to bear it, secretly tells the girl that she will help her get out of the clinic. Just need to wait a little. The nurse convinces Dr. Charcot that the patient has finally lost her will and is no longer dangerous. After that, the doctor permits transferring the girl to the general ward, where everyone is preparing for the upcoming ball. Eugene catches Louise in a wheelchair, but the girl does not lose her cheerfulness and continues to believe in her upcoming marriage and a bright and happy future. At night, Eugenie manages to read the note that Genevieve secretly passed to her during the translation. Iteo also gets a secret letter inviting him to the ball. The evening of the ball is approaching. Rich and influential guests come to the clinic, wanting to have fun with mentally ill patients. Theo also arrives by invitation and almost immediately locates his sister, extending an invitation to dance with her. Jeanne does not take her eyes off the couple, suspecting them of conspiring with Genevieve. The fun begins. Someone among the guests openly mocks strange women. Someone plans to fulfill their animal fantasies, treating patients with strong drinks and whispering gentle words in their ear. Taking advantage of the hustle and bustle, Genevieve manages to discreetly lead Jenny and Theo into her office and, after changing the girl into regular clothes, she heads towards the exit with them. Jules was able to enjoy the fun. Taking the chair with Louisa, he brought it to an empty office and, telling the girl about what would happen now, their upcoming wedding ceremony. Realizing that the paralyzed girl could not resist, the doctor forcefully knocked her on the table, finally achieving what he had long dreamed of. One of the elderly patients, who had been living in the clinic for 25 years, burst into the office at the moment when Jules was already fully engaged. Well, you understand. But that didn't stop the old woman from hitting him in all the important parts of the body. Jeanne noticed the disappearance of the patient and her brother and rushed to find them. Having noticed the fugitives in the corridor, the nurse screamed, but Genevieve managed to lead the couple out through the gate where their carriage was waiting for them. The nurse herself stayed on the clinic grounds, refusing to run away with Eugene. A year later, Eugenie writes a letter to her friend, telling her that she is free and happy, living far away from everyone and no longer hiding her abilities, helping those in need. Genevieve reads about it with a smile, sitting on a bench in the park clinic, but now she walks in this park not as a nurse but as a patient. Such was the cost of freedom for Jenny. Friends, thank you for watching. Write in the comments what you think about this movie, and please don't forget to support us with likes and subscriptions.